not to get all hot and sweaty. It'll be fun. Hello, beautiful women of the Vision Builders community. I am doing my little check on my phone to make sure that we are live. And I believe we are. And I am live tonight with Helen Harrison, and I'm going to introduce you to Helen in just a minute. But what I want to do first is set the scene. I love to remind everybody just to take a minute, to take a breath and be in this space. To be in this space, turn off your distractions. If you are anywhere near where I am and you are melting as I am melting in the heat, I hope you've got a little fan and a cold drink going. Is it hot where you are, Helen? Is it hot?
Yes, but I have aircon on.
You're sorted.
Yes.
Sorted. Do you know, I still struggle. I've got a very alive and well inner hippie that struggles to turn the air conditioning on. I think I'll be fine, I'll be fine. But now I'm kind of wishing that I did. Anyway, for those of you that are joining us live, I hope you'll take a minute to say hi. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and any questions that come up or any feedback during our interview. We love to hear from you. And I know Helen is in the group, so she'll come in and interact with any questions that you have or feedback that you leave. So please take a minute to do that. So tonight, all the way from Brisbane in Australia, we're actually in the same country, which is very exciting. Helen Harrison is joining us. Helen is an empowerment coach, a personal change, mental health and wellbeing specialist. And your story to how you came to be doing this extraordinary work is amazing, Helen. So thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you.
So let's go back. Let's take a little trip back in time. You started life in New Zealand, and I believe you were adopted into a family. So was that as a new baby or when you were a bit?
Yes, as a newborn. Yes, adopted. I was born in Auckland Hospital, and my adopted mum came up and got me because I was raised in the Hawke's Bay.
Yeah.
So yes, it's sort of all I've ever known. Yeah, so adopted at birth. Yeah.
And did they tell you that you were adopted as a child, or is it something that you found out later in life?
I knew.
Yeah.
So when I would look out, I've got an Indian brother, I've got a Samoan sister, Tongan brother, Maori brother. We were all very multicultural. So it was, I knew I was adopted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From quite a young age.
And how many siblings did you have?
So my adopted parents, they adopted 7. So they had 3 of their own. Yeah, pretty incredible. They had 3 of their own. And then they adopted my sister Amanda, who's profoundly deaf. And then from there, it sort of just led to more and more children. Yeah.
Amazing to grow up in such a multicultural environment, all in the same house.
Yes.
And so I'm curious if your adoptive parents did things that sort of kept you in connection with your heritage. Was that something?
That's a really good question. No, and that probably led to a lot of mental health for most of us. Yeah, because, there's a book called The Primal Wound, which if you are adopted, you need to read that book. It's like the Bible. And I remember as an adult in my early 20s reading this book and highlighting, yes, that's me, that's me, that's me. Yeah, particularly the ones of a different culture.
Yeah.
They had the hardest time.
Yeah.
Because yes, I'm adopted and I'm of English and Scottish descent.
Yeah.
But I didn't look different. And yes, I had parents who didn't look like me, but I think a different culture and a different way that you look is just another whole level. Yeah. So
kids can be pretty unforgiving as well once you hit them. Yeah.
Very. So look, I see it now as, you know, who I am today. No mistakes, but it was not an easy childhood at all. Yeah, it was quite confronting, you know, at different times. Yeah.
So leaving school, did you stay in New Zealand until you finished school? Was that?
Yeah, so I look, from a really young age, I loved nature. And so now as an adult, I know it was like Mother Earth. So from a really young age, you know, I'd play with all my siblings, I'd be out in the yard, playing fish and chips with the leaves, climbing trees, doing cubbies. So I really learnt how to nurture myself, not realizing that was what I was doing, you know, and I always had playmates with all of my siblings. And so I got a real love for nature. So at about 14, you know, if we wanted anything, we had to purchase it ourselves. So I'll never forget, we were coming up to school holidays. I was 13 years old. I thought, oh, God damn it, it's school holidays again, because I get terribly bored. And I never wagged school. But I remember this particular day, it was lunchtime. I thought, I'm not going back to school till I've got a job. So I left the school grounds and I started walking, and I ended up in a garden centre near from where I lived. And I said, I need a job. And she said, what will you do? And I said, I'll do anything. So that was really a turning point, because they became like my surrogate family. So I could be amongst plants and the soil, and they were very nurturing. It was a beautiful environment. So having been in that garden centre nursery environment, I thought, well, what am I going to do when I finish school? So I actually went to Massey University and did horticulture of all things.
Oh.
Yeah, because that nurturing of what the plants and what nature gave me, it was okay, that's the segue in.
Yeah.
Now looking back, you know, I had friends who were highly intelligent, and I did struggle at school. I had to work really hard to get C's, but I don't know whether it was innate in me that I knew that hang around people who you want to be like. Not that I chose it, but I had really bright, intelligent friends who supported me enormously. They were going to uni. Well, I'm going to uni.
Yeah.
So I didn't have enough in my school to be able to go to uni, but I could do a diploma. So I went off and I did a diploma in horticulture, which was lovely. But from there, that's where I then had a yearning to begin finding my roots. And I thought, all right, I'm going on a working holiday. And that's how I ended up in Australia. I actually ran out of money in Australia. I was meant to go to England, but I ran out of money. But yeah, that's how I sort of ended up in Australia.
Have you been here ever since?
Yes, so I arrived in 1987. So what's that? That's quite a few years, yes.
A couple of days ago.
Yes, yes.
87. I think I finished school in 89. So yeah,
Yeah.
30 something years ago. Amazing.
Yes, yeah, it is. Yeah.
And so like how old were you landing in Australia and setting yourself up?
19.
Wow, that's young.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And look, I was a lost soul. But I look back and I think, man, I had a bit of guts. I just think instinctively I knew I had to get away. I had to cut the ties.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I ended up in Perth. I advertised for a flatmate, and that's how I met my ex-husband.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, building a life with him. And, you know, having 3 sons and raising my kids. And there's no mistakes, is there?
There absolutely isn't.
Yeah.
And obviously there were challenges in your childhood and then things were really difficult, but it was through that adversity and that resilience that you gained. You learned how to stand on your own feet and make your own money, and knew that you had to rely on yourself. And so it is once again one of those stories where the struggle leads to the gift at some point.
Yes, but in saying that, I really replaced my adopted parents with my ex-husband. Yeah. And so, and I get that now, but you know, what a gift he was, because I've grown into who I am because of him.
Yeah.
Look, he was a safe place to land. You know, I was able to grow up in the relationship, but I was a kid when I got with him.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we journeyed together until we couldn't.
Yeah.
That was terribly difficult, being with someone for so long. Yeah, so it's all here to teach us, isn't it? Like it's hugely painful when you're going through things, and particularly change.
Yeah. I know. And I mean, obviously I've been through divorce as well. Well, not obviously, but for people in my audience know my story, that it's, you know, I became a single mother with four children under 8 when my first marriage broke up. But in hindsight, that was one of the greatest gifts in my life. As you know, we're going to jump ahead and jump back a little bit because of the way that your story is. But as somebody who now works in a big part of your work is supporting people in marriages and marriages together, I imagine. So I, you know, like thinking through my friendship group and the people, you know, so many people are divorced and remarried, or divorced and remarried more than once. Do you see many people? I think I've got one friend that's coming to mind that is with her partner that she's been with since they were teenagers. It's rare that relationships where we get together in those very formative years in our sort of early 20s, that they stay together. Is that your observation?
Yes, most definitely. And my whole viewpoint around marriage has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
You know, for me, marriage was death do us part.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of the beliefs that I had around marriage. And I stayed in a marriage too long due to those beliefs, you know, which caused me a lot of unhappiness.
Yeah.
And look, show me someone. I would love to know the research. The person you have babies with and raise a family with, are you going to grow old with them and have a passionate love affair? Find me someone. Yeah, I think it's actually quite rare.
Yeah.
Unless you both really embrace change, and both are able, because you do, don't you? Look at who you were when you had such a young family out on your own. I mean, the different versions of you that you've had to grow into as you've maneuvered through that. Unless you're with someone who embraces growth and change, very hard to stay happy and connected, isn't it?
It's a big picture though, isn't it? Because how much of that is tied into all these families that just keep breaking apart, even when it's as amicable as it could possibly be. How much of that is a picture of the terrible rise of mental ill health? You know?
Yeah, it's just it's so sad. You know, the biggest thing I see is people leave it far too late to look at it. So, you know, when I have a couple come in, particularly if they're in my room, energetically, I'm totally, where are they at? You know, you would know. It's not what they're saying, it's what you see, the visuals, the feelings, all of that. And they've been done, and they've been done for years. They're not connecting, and they just don't know how to reconnect. And so people do leave it so terribly late to even begin looking at it. And you would know. It's the relationship you have with yourself. How do you keep yourself, you know, evolved and growing? And so when you know, you were looking for people to interview, like I thought, yes, this is what I read a lot about.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it is, you know, like it's understanding personal responsibility. It's never one person. As much as we want to blame the other person, because there's so much pain and there's so much grief and there's so much hurt, but it's never one person.
No.
It's just, it takes two somehow, somewhere along the way. And it's finding responsibility in that is a big part of the healing, because as long as, and I'm saying this from personal experience, I spent a long time blaming everything on my ex. And it wasn't until I took responsibility for my role in us getting together in the first place. I was just such a child. And I just wanted
Yes.
somebody to give me all the answers and to make all the decisions and to be the man in my life in that, kind of old-fashioned picture of what I thought would make a healthy
Yes.
relationship. And I just wanted to advocate all responsibility because then I didn't have to be,
Mm,
he wasn't ready for any of that. And so
mm.
it's when we can see our responsibility in things.
Isn't it? It's like where I'm at now, I'm in a nearly 5-year relationship.
Mhm.
And it's extraordinary how different I am in this relationship. That when I'm triggered, I now see it as an opportunity to, oh, it's a bit of wounding there. Let's have a look. Oh, it doesn't mean I don't throw stuff out at him, but I'm getting a lot better at just having an awareness, and inhabiting my body.
Yeah,
And really, I've only inhabited my body in the last couple of years, if I'm truly honest with myself. It's only since the passing of my sister in 2021
yeah,
that I've landed in, and I'm really there now.
yeah,
I lived a lot in my head,
yeah,
and it was only because, after she suicided, it's like, because I've lost a brother when I was 19, to be here back again was just another level. And I thought, so when my brother Owen took his life, I had no idea how to deal with it. I was actually in Perth, got the phone call, came back to New Zealand, but of course had no emotional intelligence. I did sad, mad, and glad. I did not know how to deal with it. So I just put it away in a box.
yeah,
But in my 20s, I was, I had a lot going on.
yeah,
And, I just didn't know how to deal with it. But, I love looking back in reflection. There's certain turning points, aren't there?
yeah,
And I remember, I think it was 32. And I dropped the kids off at school. I've got 3 sons, dropped them off at school, and I came home, and look, anybody looking in would think, oh, how fabulous, got it going on, beautiful home and partner and kids. And I worked part-time for him in the business. And I remember sitting in the front room, there was a beautiful dam looking over, and just admitting to myself that I was so unhappy.
mm,
And I think it was sitting long enough to even admit that.
yeah,
And I think then from there, just that landing in and acknowledging that, that emptiness that would come in. And then from there, the anger that was starting to come up with my youngest, my 8-year-old. And this is what I see a lot in people working with me. They'll say it's the anger. The anger is a brilliant invitation. So for a couple of weeks in my early 30s, I had so much anger coming up, and my 8-year-old was copying it. So he's nearly 30 now, 29.
yeah,
So it's a long time ago. And I thought, this is out of control.
mm,
And I felt my brother's energy very close, and also my mother's. And that's when I sought help. I thought, I can't do this on my own. I do not want to repeat the cycle. And that was the turning point.
yeah,
I was in enough pain to actually reach out.
yeah.
And that's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things, and like as you talk about that, I think, in reflection that, emotional intelligence is just something that we need to be educated in so much younger, right from day dot. But it's just such a new conversation for so many people.
Oh,
And I can remember saying to my kids, if you guys don't stop what you're doing, this is a single mum with 4 kids, and I'm trying to, balance everything. If you don't stop what you're doing, I'm going to lose my blah, 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 which I now understand is making them responsible for my emotional behavior, which is wrong, 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 wrong. But we all grew up with that. I grew up with a mother who made us responsible for when she or she was upset or she was something. And we do this with our partners, we do it with our friends, we do it with that, we advocate that responsibility. Well, I would be happy if you would stop. if you would do this, then I can be happy. It's that
Yes.
everybody else around us responsible for our emotional well-being.
Yeah.
Till we understand that,
Yes.
we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that takes me to, it was probably about 8 years out before my marriage ended. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I was absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
He's not going to change. I wasn't ready to exit.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? Okay, I've got to start looking at me. And it was, you know, the work of Byron Katie, love her work.
Yes.
I don't know how many hundreds of Judge Your Neighbour worksheets I have filled out.
Yeah.
You know, on my ex-husband, on my adopted mother, on my biological mother, who I've never even met, but, you know, I had to do judgment sheets on her, you
Yeah.
know, all of these,
Yeah.
because every single time, and it's, you know, healing, awakening, living consciously, it's not something that just happens in a couple of years. I've been at this for decades.
Yeah.
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 It's profound, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And it is, you know, I don't think it ends, but I, you know, like I
No.
say that in a way that is defeatist. It's like it just becomes better and better.
Yes.
Our relationships become richer and richer, and our ability to have beautiful relationships with all sorts of different people gets better and better. So there's so many things. Yes,
Yes.
so there's times where it's like I can't look at another thing. Am I really still looking at another thing? But it's
Yes.
worth it because of the beauty that just keeps growing in life.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that reminds me, again, coming back to my early 30s, you know, I had short black hair. Don't look at me, don't come near me, and don't touch me. You know, I gave across this really tough
Yeah.
exterior,
Yeah.
you know, but inside, you know, I was heartbroken, so much trauma there.
Yeah.
So many walls. And I suppose this is probably, it's not probably, this is why I do this work, because, you know, I have people in my room.
Yeah.
I've got lived experience. It isn't something that I've learned in a textbook.
Yeah.
You know, and that would be the same for you. And I think it makes for the best type of healer therapist because you've lived it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know,
Yeah.
when I look at teenagers now, I just want to adopt all of them and wrap them in because I was such a miserable, sad teenager. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I just wanted somebody to love me and look at me and think I was
Yes.
worth time and attention.
Yeah.
And that's all they're crying out for.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's look at, I don't want to skip over the death of your brother and sister. I feel like this is, you know, grief has come up a few times in this series, and I think it's a conversation
Oh.
that is so important. I know that when my sister died, she died at 49 very, very suddenly. I was so ill-equipped, and I had another sister whose baby died when he was born, and I was so ill-equipped to be a support for them, be a support for my mum when my sister died. You know, like I just felt like I was really stumbling through it.
Yeah.
And so this is, for me, I see it as a reflection of our sterilization of everything in the Western world. It's like it's uncomfortable. Let's just lean back. If you might say the wrong thing, don't say anything. And I think this is where we get to lean into what's truly uncomfortable and deep.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, suicide is an enormously difficult thing to deal with our family as well. So, I would love to know through your lived experience, it was quite a big gap between your brother and sister, what you've learned and now what you have to pass on to other people.
What a great question. So, yeah, when my brother passed, it got put away in a box for probably about 12, 13 years. So I started seeing a counsellor, and a little thing inside of me thought, wow, you know, I want to do this work.
Yeah.
So I began to just learn. So I did sad, mad, and glad. That was my equation of emotions. I did not do emotions. I did not know how to do emotions.
Yeah.
I just knew I acted out with terrible behaviour, but I did not know how to actually just drop in and be with the hard emotions.
Yeah.
So I did many different things to get to a place of acceptance with Owen's suicide. I remember so he was put in a grave without a name, now being adopted. So so that added to my grief.
Yeah.
So the action part of me came out first when I thought, right, I want to begin healing this. So I couldn't even tap into the actual emotion.
Yeah.
So I just, went over there and over to New Zealand and sort of just to add a little bit of lightness. So he was put in a remembrance lawn. So I got myself a plaque made. This is about finding some sort of power amongst a absolute load of powerless. So I got myself a plaque made because I even actually thought of digging him up and putting him in a cemetery. But I got myself a plaque made with his name, and I got some nails and a hammer and went and parked it, like hammered it in next to where he was buried. Mind you, a few years ago, the plaque was removed. But the point of me sharing this is, first of all, doing action steps so you don't feel so powerless. And then action steps, meaning writing, doing a lot of journaling. I've done journaling for many, many years, writing into that grief. Pictures of him and being with him. It seems like such a long time ago as I tap into that. But a lot of it is being able to be with the emotion. It became complicated grief. So it came through in addiction. It came through in, drinking. It came through in spending. I didn't know how to be with me. So working with a counsellor, slowing down and learning how to be with my emotions.
Yeah.
Journaling, so all of that. And then for me professionally, I wrote a book. It was a memoir, but then the editor said, Helen, there's 2 books here. Which are we going with? We ended up just going with the self-esteem toolbook, so it's called Full Esteem Ahead. But that for me was a healing. It was a way to give tribute, because I just needed to do something. Because as you would know, it's getting to a place of acceptance. Big processes, I blame my father. Of course, there was no blame, but I had so much energy on my father, so I had to do a lot of my father wound. Look at layers and layers and layers, just keep going. Work with someone who can support you with this.
Yeah.
So I got to a place of acceptance. And then year 2021, my younger sister, now, that was, I won't drop into it because it's still only a couple of years ago. But for me, I was equipped.
Yeah.
And I actually took myself away. No one could help me with this. No one. Grief is such a personal journey.
Wow.
So I found the money and I went to a retreat where they just fed me, but I stayed in a little cottage there was a stream, and I wrote and I ate, and I can feel the emotion coming up now. And I just dropped into what was there. I didn't fight it this time.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest gift that I gave myself, and I honoured that space. And so what I've learned from this, you cannot go around the outside. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I had to drop in and I had to be with it. But what was remarkable, as I'm dropping through the layers and layers and layers, you get to love. And it's incredible. There's no words. And so from that, Lily's with me all the time. I can feel her with me now.
Yeah.
And the gift she has given me is profound. Because in that I've entered a whole new level of consciousness, and the level of how I meet people in my work, but also the level of how I meet me now.
Yeah.
So it's just been absolutely massive. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
Absolute sense. And I think there's a couple of things that I'd love to just highlight
Yeah.
that you've said. Part of, that we can, as people in the personal development world, when we've been in this world for a long time, we start to speak our own language. And I'm aware that sometimes we can lose people. And it is that sense of, like being with yourself can sound like, well, of course I'm with myself. I can't leave. I'm stuck with this. But the way that I think about that and the way that I support people with that concept is it's feeling the feelings. I am masterful at being busy. So if I
Yes.
know if I want to avoid something,
Yeah.
I'll just I get busier and busier in work. And then like my house needs to be spotless.
Yep.
I've suddenly got to do this and I
Yeah.
do this and I've got
Yes.
to be so busy. And so we've got
Yes.
work, we've got
Yeah.
our phones. So you can pick up your phone and you don't think. You don't have to think, it's distraction.
Yeah.
Put in a podcast, or then you watch Netflix, and so we're not being with us
Yeah. Yeah.
when being with us, feeling the feelings can be scary. But the thing that I have learned is we never experience feelings that are bigger than what we can handle.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to think about when my sister died, I was like, I just didn't want to think about it because I thought if I let that drop in, the dam's going to break and I'll never come out of it. And it's not true.
No.
So for anybody that's listening to this, you will never experience bigger feelings than what you can manage.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I think what's come from it for me, because I am a type A personality, I'm sort of go, 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 but it's has slowed me down and made me recognize what is important. My most beautifulest thing I love doing is I meditate in the morning and then I just write. So just nobody sees my work. It's for me. One day someone may, I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. But it brings in a connection. And this goes right back to being adopted and not having that sense of belonging, not having looking outside and having, oh, you are connected to me. So the gift that Lily has given me is absolutely profound, because the connection now, it's like I've landed I'm home. I was always searching, I was on that working holiday to try and find my biological mother. I did think that if I found her, I'd find me. Well, that wasn't to be the case. And so just what happened to me, I call it post-traumatic growth. What happened with Lily passing, just it's opened up this whole new world for me. Last September, I started an annual fundraiser. So it's called SP Dinner and Dance. So it's for suicide. Yeah, because I needed to do something with the energy, which is similar to what happened with Owen. I wrote a book and I did different things. I want to raise funds. So I've joined a foundation, and the money, we had a great fundraiser last year, and then we're going to be, I'm doing it annually, but putting my energy into something. But also now I want to speak into the mental health arena. So this is all very new. This has only just been coming in. But when like this is bigger than me. I really don't even get a choice. It's a calling. It's my body that's going to take me to where I'm going to go. But I will not. Well, I don't feel fear anymore because it is right. So it's extraordinary, isn't it?
You collect wisdom You know, you don't,
Yes.
you cannot get wisdom from a book. This is one of the, one of the great things that we've fall into the trap. It's not that we don't want to read books. It's not that we don't want to gather knowledge and information. That's so powerful. But wisdom comes from lived experience. It's the only way. You can't get wise about something without living an experience.
No.
And, it reminds me of my sister giving birth, and she was like, "You cow, why didn't you tell me?" I was like, "There is no describing birth to a person that hasn't given birth. You can't." It's a lived experience. But like when we've lived through these different, and some of them are celebrations, but the wisdom comes from the really difficult times, from the grief, from the heartbreak. You can't explain what heartbreak is until you've had your heart broken. It's just a concept, it's just words. So all of the things that you've learned on your journey and you now feed into your work and the way that you support people, it is a gift to the people on the other side of your work to have access to that sort of wisdom. More connection to spirit. Are you religious? How are you talking about your connection to Mother Nature and to
Yes, Mother Nature. So as a child, my parents were quite religious, and we'd have to go off to church each week. And I, even as a kid, I thought, I'm not into this. I'm sitting here in this cold, New Zealand's freezing, this cold pew, listening to a minister up there telling me how I should be. And it just, even then, it didn't sit with me. I got my peace and my comfort from nature, and I still do to this day. And it's nothing like, taking your shoes off and standing on the earth, and that is what gives me comfort. And just being at one. So I love the work of Eckhart Tolle, and this last year I've been practicing. He talks about at every possible moment to take a breath in, connect into the body, because then it takes me out of my head. And so I do that as much as I possibly can, because otherwise, my brain is like commenting about frigging everything, because it is. Yeah. But it's just all of these little tools to sort of help. But coming back to spirituality, when I get out of my head and I'm in my body, like when I'm working with clients, it doesn't come from the head. None of it comes from the head. It's all very intuitive. It's all very channeled, or whatever you want to call it. There's no trying to work it out. And it's and there's nothing like it, is there? Because I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, and how freaking blessed am I?
I find it a fascinating conversation, because it's something that I still grapple with in articulating that way of doing things. And there are people out there that just speak about it with such grace. But I had that experience in being a speaker, and I would stand on a stage or be on video, and it would just all come out. And then I'd be like, I don't know where that came from, but I think it sounded good.
Yes.
It has been my experience of, and there was somebody that talked about being like a faucet. Marianne Williamson, she talks about being like a faucet, and it's like the tap gets turned on and it channels and comes through. And it's something, it's not intellectual intelligence. It is that emotional intelligence or divine intelligence. And it's something that I hope to become more eloquent and more, have a better way of talking about it. But I'm really glad you brought it up, because it is a real thing.
Yes, it's profound. Like, after I've written and I sort of come back into the room in the mornings, I meditate and then I write. I think, where did the hell that come from? Oh my God, this is good. Because it's not coming from the intellectual part of me. It's coming from such a deeper place, and there's such wisdom, and I get so much comfort from it. Because I was determined to not live in years of anguish like I did after my brother's death. I was not. And the relationship I have with my sister in spirit is stronger than the relationship I had, especially her as an adult, because she struggled terribly. She was Samoan. She didn't know which world she belonged in. Beautiful soul. But was often in her head, and then, you know, different addictions came in. So she was through so much turmoil. But in this life now where I'm at, the relationship I've got with her, you know, and being Samoan, I've got a little hibiscus bush, and when she flowers, you know, and it's, oh, hello, Lily. Yeah, it's profound. It's absolutely profound. And the gift she has given me, I just, it's really hard to put into words. And look, people could listen to this and think, well, it's a bit cuckoo, but yeah, it just is what it is.
It's not.
No, it isn't.
And this is, you know, this is the power of story, because there's going to be
Yeah.
somebody listening that's just like, oh, I'm not the only one. Yeah, I get that. It feels, I'm not sure how to articulate it, but there's a, you know, the resonance of truth is the highest resonance. You know, when hear something true, it's like, yeah, I'm not sure how to articulate that, or I haven't spoken about it before, but there's that is true. I can feel it.
Yeah.
This is intuition. This is where we get to start.
Yes. Which gives me the yeah, I can be happy and I can be in the present moment. Because I honestly didn't know if I ever could. Going through that again. But and so for me, where I'm at today, my house is on the market. We are downsizing. We want a you know, less stress life. It's really, you know, creating awareness around how we really want to live. Much quieter, less complicated. Yes.
I did a fabulous interview with Kerry Cott. I don't know if you saw her interview, but she's living in a tiny house in the middle of nowhere, completely off grid. You know, it's like, oh my gosh.
Oh,
I often look at those people doing that, or people, you know, sort of nomadic that travel, and I just think, there's part of me that feels very drawn to that simply simple way of living.
Yes, which I've got 3 sons. My youngest is 22 and he's about to venture off again. So he came back from South America and sort of came out of orbit and landed back into society, and he has struggled the last few months. So he's trained with DeMartini. He's a coach. He's building his coaching business, and he's about to go again. He says just coming back in and, you know, doing life as it is. It's just he's finding that really difficult. And I think, wow, at that age to be going and doing that. I mean, I landed in Australia and stayed there. So
it's interesting. I've got a son who's exactly the same. He was traveling around Australia, and then he did Southeast Asia, and he's home. But I describe him as like his caged tiger. When you put walls around him, he's just
And I just think, oh, good on him, you know. And as a mum, you'd like to keep them close, but
if they're happy, I'm happy.
Oh, totally. You know, and a huge thing with raising my sons is I want them to be who they're meant to be. Don't be who you think I want you to be. You be you. And so I definitely have raised 3 very independent, authentic men. They're all so totally different, and, you know, and I am so grateful for that.
Yes, and this is, as we've just been speaking about this whole series and this conversation that we've had together, you know, you can't bypass these life experiences. Some of them are really challenging and some of them are really hard, and you wish them away. It's like, how do I wrap you in bubble wrap and protect you? But we just do our kids the greatest disservice in doing it, because their wisdom grows as they struggle and go through all the phases that we've gone through, which has allowed us to do the work that we do now and to have greater resilience. And, you know, when you were talking about, and obviously still have that deep sadness for your sister, also a joy, you know, and it is, that is how you can live the duality. Because we have sadness, it doesn't mean that we can't joy as well. Yeah.
Yes, like when she pops in, sometimes I'm sobbing, and then within minutes there's a joy. So, but I've learned to be able to do that, to be with whatever emotion is here.
Yeah.
You know, and it just is. And it's just a beautiful way, because to be actually present and be in my body and be with whatever is here. So I think anybody listening to this, something that helped me enormously was a really structured, I called it grief time. Because, you know, busy personality, and I didn't want to be with it. Particularly when I came off the retreat that I went in, I still, for many, many months, probably a good 10 months, I would have daily grief time. So I would just sort of check in and where am I at, and sort of drop into the body. How am I feeling? And it would often surprise me, because I'd be feeling happy and fine. But then when I actually created the space to drop in and call it grief time, there'd be deep sadness, and I'd let it be there. I wasn't going to go through what I'd gone through previously. So anybody listening, having a really structured practice around grief time. And also I had one piece of music that, and what I've learned about music, when music is created at the same vibration that you are at, that will stir your emotion. So I had this piece of music that I would play that would just bring in emotion. But it was so healthy, because I wasn't burying it down. So that can be really helpful now. And if I play that music now, it's a piece of music, but the vibration has moved for me. It doesn't stir me like I used to. Yeah. So
I have a sister who's a doctor of music therapy.
Oh,
A music therapist. So yes, it's a very, very powerful tool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to touch on is the power of having somebody to speak with, having somebody to talk to. You know, I did a post a couple of days ago about, or it was last week, about holding space. It's one of the greatest gifts that we can give women. You know, if you've got somebody that's, whether they've just given birth, or whether they, you know, like going through a divorce, or like any kind of grief or any experience, having a place that you can articulate what's going on. If we just stay in our head, it becomes like this broken record that just goes around and around and around and around. It is the greatest gift we can receive and we can give as women, is to hold space for people's stories. And I just hope that this becomes something that is understood with a greater depth. You know, we all have this desire to feel heard, or we have the desire to fix and give in, you know, like ideas and remedies. And this is what, but if we can just hold that space in silence for somebody else to share their story, it is so healing. It is so healing.
Yeah.
So that's obviously part of the work that you do as a counsellor, is holding space for people to process their stories and their experiences.
Yeah.
All right. If I was going to open this magic funnel from the universe and pour through millions or billions of dollars, what would you invest it in? What's the change that you want to see in the world?
Oh, well, gosh, it's a good question. Gosh, where do I even begin to answer that? It's, for me, it's speaking into and speaking all around that you can heal yourself, but it's knowing how to do that. So for me, it is getting on platforms to be able to speak to a bigger arena of people. And so the question, so are you saying that if I was given, you know, a huge amount of money, what I would do with it. Is that the question?
Yeah, it's really the bit that I'm really intrigued in is, what is the change that you want to see in the world? I mean, we can change the face with unlimited,
Yeah,
we can change the face of education, we can change the face
yeah,
of politics, of pharmaceutical companies and the, medical field,
yeah,
like the way that we can change the way that they do, funerals and grief and, all of these things in our society have
yeah,
become institutionalized. There's a way
yes,
of doing it and it gets done a certain way and it's got all these walls around it.
yes,
And I think the time has come where so much of this, if not all of it, needs a radical shake-up. And the universe is showing us this. It showed
oh,
it through the great pandemic when it locked us
yeah,
all, and it's like they grabbed hold of the universe and
yeah,
did a great big shake and turned us upside down.
yes,
But the problem is that we all just got turned up the right way and kept going doing the same thing.
yeah,
These things are being built on platform. I'm going on a tangent here, but these things are being built on a platform of industry and masculine patriarchal
yes,
ways of doing things. And I think we've got an opportunity with the rise of feminine energy, the rise of emotional intelligence, and all these
yeah,
things to make big changes.
yeah, I do agree with that.
What
Yeah.
what is the area that you would go? Here's
Oh, look, is working with, whether it be guiding, mentoring, speaking, whatever that platform is, but for people to activate and connect with their inner power source. So, whether you're a male or a female, you've got masculine and feminine energy, and being able to connect inwardly. You've got all your answers inside. They aren't outside of yourself. And so it's teaching people, supporting people to trust that inner guidance. Friggin' make best friends with yourself. Come in, land, come home. And supporting people how to do that. And it's slowness, stillness. A lot of the coaching I do is with CEOs and managers and leaders. You know what I'm coaching them in? How to slow down, how to bring in stillness, and how to play, how to be spontaneous. They've got everything that money can buy. They've got a business that's just going brilliantly, but they have no joy. So it's coming back to absolute basics and a beautiful, rich, deep relationship with yourself and learning how to come home, land in, however you want to describe it, but finding your own inner power source. And, often it is through tragedy, I'm afraid, that we land in and come home. I know it was for me. I kept on searching, I kept on looking, I'll try harder, I'll do more, I'll do this, do that. It's not. It's not. Yeah.
I there's a possibility that I've spent more on my personal development education through courses, mentors, coaches than people spend on a medical degree. And it makes me swallow every time I think about it.
I'd agree.
I've done a lot. I've learned a lot.
Yep.
And the three things that I have written up on my board that I look at that I don't ever let myself forget is stare into space, daydream, and good stuff is around the corner.
Yes.
It's so simple.
It is so simple. Yeah, it is. Yeah. No. Oh, look, we speak the same language. I could talk to you about this for hours.
Yeah. But this is the gift of, people listening to all this and also reflecting on their own.
Yeah.
All of the women tuning into this have got a wealth of
Yes.
life experience.
Yeah.
And reflecting on all of our journeys,
Yeah.
all of the things we've been through. And when we, like when I ask women, what is the thing that you want? It's like peace and freedom.
Yeah.
And freedom. Where do we find peace and freedom? When we turn everything off, we stare into space. And it's that beautiful word plentitude, when we look at a sunrise or a sunset and everything else is no longer important. It's just this moment of connection with something that's greater than us. It's
Yes.
the universe. We are a thread.
Yes.
Of life, and it's just this sense of it's all happening for a reason.
Yeah.
We can see the reason, when we can see our role in this journey. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So if you get in a place where you're needing to get yourself back on track, it's like you've lost your light, what do you do? What's your top kind of 3 things that you lean into?
So meditation.
Yeah.
Meditation, the chair behind me. So meditate. I love the work of Tara Brock and her rain. So she talks about recognizing what's here, allowing it to be here, investigate it, and then nurture. And so, you know, I've had to do an enormous amount of inner child work. So when I'm not right, my inner child's out. And so learning to nurture and be with her. So meditation is my number 1. Walking, love walking, hugely important. And also journaling or writing my poetry. They would be my three things. That, they keep me grounded, they keep me centered. You know, at the moment we are moving, like we're selling contracts, this, that, you know, we've got to get into an Airbnb because we haven't got anything. So my nervous system, I'm having to constantly keep my nervous system regulated. So my self-care at the moment is even more than ever, because I know, you know, there's a lot up in the air, and it's all great learnings, isn't it? It's, you never actually get there. It's just a constant evolving, isn't it? And practicing, and the ebbs and flows of life.
What are the things that pull you off track, Helen?
That's a good question. Like at the moment, home, my house, that's pulling me off track. So really aware of regulating my nervous system. What pulls me off track is when I get really busy, when the ego is really big and out. My ego, you know, judging, criticizing, all of that good stuff, that can pull me out. And just when the mind, you know, noticing the mind, all the things that we all struggle with. Just because I do this for a living and I live and breathe this doesn't mean that I've got it going on, I'm enlightened and sit eating rice and, you know, bliss. No.
And you know, like when we think about the things that get us back on track, part of that is who we're surrounded by and talking to us. Like, have you remembered to meditate today? Or it's just like that thing of like, that's what's missing. Or
I'm going to add one more thing: sleep. I know my nervous system has been a bit activated when I'm waking up at 3. Then it's right, really got to bring it down, slow it right down. Sleep's up there with water and food. So important. But it's always a great one that lets me know when I'm not quite balanced. I'm
fiercely protective of my sleep.
Yes.
So what does a beautiful, blooming, beautiful life look like to you, Helen?
Oh, beautiful. It's a life of having the freedom to be spontaneous and do what I want to do when I feel like it. And that is what I'm working towards. So that my life isn't so structured and ordered, that there is more movement and freedom to do what I feel like doing. You know, I love long breakfasts. I love long walks. I love slowness. And to have more room to do that. That is just wonderful. Yes.
Sounds lovely. Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. For anybody that is wanting to connect with you or to look at the work that you're doing, what's the best place for them to find you, Helen?
So either on my Power of Change website or my Helen Harrison website, you'll find everything there on either of those websites. And you can contact me that way. But I just want to thank you. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's had depth, it's had joy, it's had sadness, it had so many different parts to it. And yeah, I really thank you. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Oh, it's been my
Yeah.
absolute pleasure. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your story with us. It's a vulnerable story, but it's also a really powerful story.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you. All right, beautiful women.
Thank you.
From us this evening. If you've got any questions or feedback for Helen as you catch this tonight or in replays, please don't hesitate to leave comments and feedback. We really appreciate it. All right, that's it from me. I'm going to take my sweaty top lip, go have a shower and some dinner. Mwah, big love and bye for
Thanks.
now.
Bye.